Today's episode 124 of the Deep Dives, and we're going to be talking about Phil Keaggy, an artist who's sort of been in the Christian and the and outside of that world musically. I'm going to rehash a little bit of the stuff that we talked about in our small group last night, what happened in between the Testaments, and I guess we'll take it from there. It's kind of like round two because we've already been talking for like an hour.
Yep.
But we'll see where it goes.
Describing Phil Keaggy is not easy.
Right.
Some of the research I did: Christian music, folk, rock, jazz, instrumental, and worship music. That's a big genre of music. And one of the things that we did, or that I did, that I want to see what works, is to have you all, Chris and Josh, do just a small bit of research, just maybe 15 minutes of YouTube search on the artists that I'm going to be talking about, especially if you've never heard of them, so we can get like first impressions. Right? You, Josh, you knew who Phil Keaggy was, but Chris,
Yes.
you've never heard of him, and I didn't either until he popped up and I started listening to him. Why did it catch my attention? My goodness gracious, he's a guitar player.
Right.
Wow. It didn't.
He didn't even start off as a guitar player. He started off as a drummer.
As a drummer.
Yeah.
He asked his dad for drums
Yep.
for his birthday whenever he was real young. His dad came home with a guitar. His dad was a guitarist, wasn't he?
I think so,
His
yeah.
dad was a guitarist, and he just wanted his son to be a guitarist. And skipping ahead a little bit, he's taken 2 guitar lessons in his life, and everything else. And he's taking 2 guitar lessons, and he cannot read music.
Right.
Now, if you're listening to this right now, just go to YouTube real quick. Just listen to one. It doesn't matter which one. There's hundreds of YouTube videos of him. Just listen to him play for 5 minutes, and you tell me that it's obvious that he has never played, never taken lessons. This guy is really good at the guitar. The ironic thing is that he's known as a finger guitar player. So you've got guitarists who play with a pick, just pick one string or strum, and you've got guitarists like classical guitarists that play with all 4 or 5 or however many fingers they pluck, they just strum the instrument, and sometimes with both hands. Now, he's a strummer. He plays with all of his fingers, and I think he doesn't use a pick. I don't know if he uses a pick. Sometimes I'm sure he does, but he has fingernails that have been groomed the whole time he's been playing guitar, so he can just use those as pick. Here's the ironic thing. He doesn't have a middle finger. As a kid, it was a water faucet accident is all I can tell you. He cut his middle finger off at the knuckle. So you will never know that if you didn't know it.
Yeah.
If you look at him, anytime he's holding a guitar, you can tell because this finger is tucked in more. And I think I said on our previous episode that I was going to say what he has in common with Jerry Garcia. That's exactly what he has in common with Jerry Garcia. No, not a lot of people know Jerry Garcia lost his finger right there too whenever he was young, and you just wouldn't know it because he uses a pick. Jerry uses a pick most of the time.
I think that'd make it difficult to drive in some cities.
Yeah, giving that number one, telling people you're number one, which is a hobby of ours, it's hard to do. Let me tell you something, man. I've got the kind of, and I know Chris does too, got the kind of sense of humor that if I had my finger cut off right there, I would be giving people, I would just want people to know, what's going on? How's it going? Nice to see you. And just see what kind of reaction.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't seem to be a big deal for him, but all of the research that I've done the first paragraph, it's mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think, man, boy, what a thing. This happened when he was like 8 years old. And even today, all the research talks about him losing his middle finger. Like, wow, you're identified as that. Hey, how about this? I've put out 55 albums. That's what he's put out, 55 albums. But everybody knows me as the guy who lost his middle finger, which is weird. Anyway, so he is, let me read some things right quick. Phil Keaggy, it's spelled Keaggy, is widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists of his generations. Best known for Christian music, which I didn't know. Here's the other unique thing, Chris. I stumbled on him not knowing he was a Christian artist. But man, what a great surprise! See, because he does a lot of instrumentals,
right?
First video that I saw of him, he was just playing his guitar. He was real young, playing his guitar, and it blew me away. It blew me away because he played the guitar differently than I've ever seen anybody else play before. The video that I saw, he used loops, so he was doing one, maybe two measures of something. He hit his foot pedal, and that would continue to play whenever and then he'd create another loop, one or two measures, hit that. Now 2 loops are playing, 3, 4. He went on for however long, and then he'd just start playing. And after he got into however many loops he was going to play, and he didn't play any more loops, it looked like he was playing everything at one time. But the thing is, even if he doesn't have any loops, it kind of sounds the same. He can play, because he's playing with all 9 fingers. He's able to make sounds with this hand and with this hand independently. And he uses some kind of metal. Sometimes he uses a metal. It's not a slide. It's not the glass slide that you see people putting on their hands and sliding up down. It's a piece of metal that he puts pressure on the strings and moves the strings around, and it makes a unique sound. It's one piece.
It alters the tension on the strings,
right?
And you can kind of get like a wah wah type.
It's like
sound
a wah wah pedal.
Yeah. It's called I think it's actually called a wah wah bar.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the wah there. If you see a guitar, sometimes there's a lever hanging down.
Yep.
And that's a guitarist can hit that, and it takes one of the pickups, or it changes the tension again, and it goes wow wow wow. But that's very
whammy
limited.
Bar.
A what?
Whammy bar. I was confusing it with the wah wah pedal.
Okay, whammy bar.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. I've never seen anybody else use that instrument before, but I'm not doing it justice. He just sounds so unique. If you sat here with your eyes closed and headphones on, and somebody put on that music, at certain times you would think to yourself, I don't know if that's a guitar. What is that? It sounds like a guitar if you start strumming it, of course, or picking it, but it's very melodic. It could go crazy, I think. If somebody that didn't know what they were doing or trying to do that, I think it would kind of get irritating. Man, does he make it sing?
Yeah.
You agree?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think about this guy?
Okay, so a couple things. When I was a kid, the church I went to, we used to go to a skating rink every Thursday night, because the local skating rink on Thursday nights, it was like quote unquote Christian night. So instead of playing like rock music and all this stuff, they would play, all the
bad Christian music.
Bad Christian
Back then,
music,
it was bad Christian music.
Instead of regular rock, it was like Christian rock.
Oh gosh!
But contemporary Christian music. But because this was like quote unquote Christian night, that's when a bunch of us at my church, we'd get together and we'd go to the skating rink on Thursday nights, and that's where I started getting. This is like late '80s, early '90s. That's where I first got introduced to Phil Keaggy, is at the skating rink.
And he's been around since the early '70s.
Oh yeah, he's been around for a while. So I've at least known about him and since at least 1990, 91, something like that. But yeah, as far as like his ability to play the guitar, there's 2 people that I want you to research now.
Okay.
One is a guy named Chet Atkins.
Oh, I know Chet Atkins.
Yep, and one is a guy named Tommy Emmanuel.
I don't know him. Okay.
So Chet Atkins, he's like the guru of the finger picking style.
Okay.
One of my favorite guitar, like ever since I was a kid. My dad loved him. I loved him. But he was one of these guys that like pioneered really in the modern way what that finger picking style is. I think he's even the one that introduced Phil Keaggy to looping.
Okay.
And the finger picking style and everything.
Okay.
And but like the genius of Chet Atkins was very similar to Phil Keaggy's, because if I remember correctly, I don't think Chet Atkins ever like took guitar lesson, knew how to read music or whatever. This is all just him like becoming one with his guitar. He did have his middle fingers, but
Did he?
yeah.
Well, anybody can do it with 10 fingers.
Right,
Come
right.
on.
But then Tommy Emmanuel was also a student of Chet Atkins, and just like even went further. Like it's just insane in what he can do. I mean, you're talking about the whammy bar. So Tommy Emmanuel, what he'll do, and I'll send you some videos of this, but he'll be playing along, and instead of using a whammy bar, he'll like in the middle of it just adjust one string, and he'll go and adjust another string or whatever. And so he's like getting that sound from a whammy bar specific to individual strings. It's amazing. Or he'll do something else, like instead of using a whammy bar, he'll let the strings kind of like he'll strum, reverberate or whatever, and he'll push on the top of his guitar and warp the neck a little bit, and he'll get that just by distorting the entire body of the guitar, he'll get that effect. Insane talent. These three guys, but I'm going to send you some Chet Atkins and Tommy Emmanuel videos.
Let me do a little bit more. We're going to ask Chris what his impression was of this guy. Okay, so Glass Harp was a band that he was in the early 70s. He helped he was one of the original members of Glass Harp in the early 70s. And this was before he became saved. And one of the reports that I read was that they went on tour. They went on a European tour, I believe, with Glass Harp, and then he came back and said, "I don't ever want to do that again. My kids, I don't want to ever miss that much of my kid growing up." So my understanding was he never went on tour like that again. Perhaps that's why he's not as well known as everybody else is. There's people who have not even a smidgen of his talent who are very well-known guitarists. You know what I mean?
Right.
Perhaps that's why he never went on tour again. Yes, he went out and did concerts, of course, but he lives in Nashville, and he did a lot of recording in Nashville, and he'd go out and do one or two shows and come back. And that's the way he's done a lot of, my understanding is that's the way he's done a lot of his recording is that way. But somewhere after starting or helping to start Glass Harp, he became saved, and he left that band because he felt called to do something different. And that's how it started. Even today, he's still really good friends with the people in Glass Harp. It didn't have anything to do with them not being good together or good musicians or whatever, but he just felt the calling to do something different. This guy, Phil Keaggy, is a 7-time recipient of the GMA Dove Awards, which is the Christian Grammys, I guess.
Yes.
Right. So 7-time recipient of the Dove Awards for Instrumental Album of the Year, 2-time Grammy nominee. So even in secular music, people recognize him as being one of the top guitarists in the world. But he was a 2-time nominee. He spent a career spanning more than 5 decades with a reputation of humble, intimate live performances. Phil Keaggy is not a guy that you would go to expecting to get into a mosh pit, and go, or yes. You sit there and you're going to enjoy the genius that he is on the guitar.
Right.
And just having that picture in my mind, I started looking at YouTube videos, and that is exactly what happens. He's up there talking. He's a good front man, very humble, and he tells stories, and he'll start playing, and people are they're just enthralled at watching his fingers. They're sitting there, they're drinking water, and they're just watching. I think we all can enjoy that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We can all enjoy that environment. Yes, I would go to a concert like that. And there's very few other people that I'd go to. I'd go to Metallica, and I would probably go to a couple more. But I think once you turn a certain age, you go, yeah, that's my deal. You sit there and have a waiter come up, and anyway, that's what we would do with Phil Keaggy. He's a master musician. Some of his albums are called Beyond Nature, The Master and the Musician, Acoustic Sketchers, True Believer, Sunday's Child, What a Day. I'll be honest with you, I have heard some of his songs that sound like they could have been played at the skating rink.
Yeah.
They were just really bebop-y. That was probably early on.
Right. But
they were just not my kind of music. But then you listen to another song, it sounds like a total different person, you know.
Yeah.
I think, anyway. So he's an instrumentalist. Even today in Nashville, he has a studio downstairs, and he has people come over and they play and they write music, and that's the way he does his thing. Been married to the same person his entire life. His entire adult life, since the 70s, has some children, and is just a regular old guy, man. You know, he's just a regular old guy. Chris, what did you think about him?
I listened to 3 songs. When I told JDL, you gave us a homework assignment. She goes, "Oh, I know who he is."
Okay.
I said, "Okay, I never heard of him." So she played music while we were driving in the car on YouTube. Because right now, house is in disarray with all of the remodeling.
Yeah.
And so the first song she played was Time.
Time, okay. Mm-hmm.
And the next song that she played was Wind in the Wheat. And then the next one she played is I Felt God's Breath Today.
Oh, well, nice. That's a nice title.
Now, and so the first song, the music was okay, but for some reason to me, his voice sounded like 2 cats fighting in a bag.
You know what? He sounds like Gaddy Lee of Rush. Very high voice, right? A very high voice.
That did not appeal. That did not appeal to me. The Wind and the Wheat was pretty good, but the one I really liked was I Felt God's Breath Today, or God's Wind this way. Okay. And that one was very folk, almost like Irishy folk.
Yeah.
Instrumental. I really enjoyed that one. So I think on the instrumental side, I like him. As far as his singing voice,
not so much.
Not so much. It's just I can't stand it when the music. I can't
like
stand
the guitar playing a whole lot better.
Yeah. I can't stand when the music and the voice don't match.
They're competing against each other.
Yeah, I was sitting there going,
yeah.
Ooh.
Now, I will say this. He does a cover of Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
Man, I heard it this morning.
Yeah, that's a cool one where the instrumental and the voice works. Yeah.
That, if you think about Here Comes the Sun, that's kind of his lower register.
Right.
You listen to that one. That is really good.
Okay.
Yeah. That is really good.
And the way he does the finger picking on that, because it's a little bit different than the way the Beatles did, because the Beatles weren't like, they were guitarists, but they were rock guitarists.
Yeah, right.
Now, one thing that I did last night on my phone, pull up a couple of things, but it was people doing covers of his music.
Okay.
And it was they slightly changed the name, but it says it in there was the music. So I mean, he has an influence, and you know, when I saw a video of Time that I pulled up, that was 20 years ago on YouTube.
Yeah, I know, right?
And that was like, that's just unusual to see him. So he was an earlier pioneer as far as his music goes on YouTube, I think.
Good point. That's a really good point. If you look at his YouTube channel, there's an early Phil Keaggy who looks a lot like Kenny Loggins, I think. Dark hair, long dark hair, dark beard, and then the next thing is he's got short gray hair and a gray beard. You know, I'm glad that you and I haven't evolved like that, aren't you? Aren't you?
Yeah, I
still look
I
like we
see
did in the
absolutely no
first-
gray in your beard at all. I see no gray in what I have either.
Right? You know, it's true. We have that thought in our head. People shouldn't change, but if you're looking for a video of him, it would be difficult to just look at the pictures of him and decide it's the same person. But if I enjoyed looking at some of the interviews that he had, I wanted to learn about him and his influences, and his influences were Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles. He actually had a picture of him in, was it Paul McCartney? Or I think it was him and Paul McCartney sitting on a bed playing guitar with each other because they were at the same wedding in the early 70s. So that was one of his highlights, he said, in his life, to be able to do that. But anyway, this guy, look, if you're listening or watching, you need to look him up and just enjoy the music. If you're at all love watching guitar players, I don't know how else you could get any better than him. It just seems to be a God-given talent to not have taken lessons. Now, you got to put an asterisk by that and say, okay, he didn't take official lessons, but everybody that he came in contact with that he played, of course he was learning from them.
Right.
Right.
It wasn't the formality of sitting in a class.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He just figures it was a God-given talent also.
Right.
You know, to do what he does.
When it comes to guitarists, one guy that we got to talk about, not today, but sometime, is Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
And then here's why. You know, we talked about, you know, the fingerstyle, Chet Atkins and Phil Keaggy and, you know, all those guys. I'm still going to send you those videos.
Okay.
But like, as proficient as they are in that style, I think Slash is like as proficient in electric guitar. But what's most amazing about him, I think, is this. It was a very informal, like intimate concert he did with a group of people. It was just him, and I can't remember the name of the lead singer at the time, but they took a lot of the songs that were characteristically, you know, Slash just slaying on his electric guitar. He was just on an acoustic guitar the whole time, and he had to like kind of recompose a lot of those songs for acoustic, and it was amazing. I want to send you that little concert too.
Okay. I think we would be surprised to know how many heavy metal and rock and roll guitarists that really are not the centerpiece of the band. I think we'd be surprised at how good some of these guitarists are.
Right.
If they're classically trained, or even if they're not classically trained. Like I've heard Slash was almost as big as Axl.
Yeah.
After a while on Guns N' Roses, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's because of the way he looked, the way he presented himself, whatever. But I never really knew he was a really good guitarist.
Right.
You know, and other people are the same way. You know, the guitarist for Metallica, really good.
Yeah.
Really good. But sometimes that talent gets overshown by the presentation of the full band. You know what I mean? So Randy Rhoads, that played with Ozzy Osbourne, he was one of the best guitarists at the time, and he died at an extremely young age. I think he was 19 or 21. But he, at the time, people were looking at him as being a prodigy because he was so good. But if you just put on an album with him, it would just sound like a bunch of high-pitched, like everybody else sounds. But if you start breaking it down, especially if you see him play some, there's not a lot of video of him playing because he died so young. You get to realize how good he was classically. You know what I mean? He did the finger picking and everything else, but he was known for the high-pitched wailing on the guitar.
Yeah.
Anyway, Phil Keaggy is somebody that we all need to look up to and see how he has made it through the music business, still holding his belief in Christ as he does today. I think it's an easy answer. He didn't get caught up in it.
Yeah.
He didn't go for fame. He didn't necessarily want fame. He wanted to use his, from what I could tell, wanted to use his gift to bring honor to Christ. And there's some music where it's very secular. He's not, it's not about that. But he never shies away from it either. So anyway, it was an honor to do some research on him, and I'm glad you got to listen to him. And I know you, Chris, as you do, you bring your honest opinion. That's why I'm asking. You know what I mean? I'm with you. His voice, and I think if you were to ask him, he would say, "I don't really like singing that much. I will, but I don't really like it that much," because he makes fun of his own voice.
But it also goes to my personal preference anyway.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I tend to like instrumental over voice in most cases anyway.
Okay.
So because with voice I'm having to listen to the words. With instrumental I can just let it.
Yeah.
Let it wash I can do it in the background. Right.
I did a little bit on ChatGPT with him, and let me tell you what. This is how ChatGPT is getting to be. And we can transition into our AI discussion real quick.
Warning.
It's scary. ChatGPT told me that since you're a photographer and you're asking about Phil Keaggy, here's a song that I think you would like to listen to while you're looking through some photos. Come on. That's a little personal, isn't it? I swear to you, that's what they told me. Because Phil Keaggy is a good music to listen to while you're thumbing through some old photos.
Wow. Okay.
Do this. Open up a clean ChatGPT thing, chat or whatever, and just ask it, what are my strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, you did that for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I will. I will. It's telling me things I forgot that I told it.
Yeah.
It doesn't forget.
No, it doesn't.
Well, actually,
And then we'll discuss them on air next time.
While he was down at CookieCon last week's reason we didn't record, I
forgot to talk about
I throwed out a question to you. My thing is horror movies, older horror movies.
Right.
I enjoy them, and there was a transition effect, and you'd run it through ChatGPT, and I have to try that, but I'm going to have to try that on something because I want to see if it'll work.
More than likely it will, Chris. I got.
So I'm just hoping it will. So
we need to do a couple. How we talk about musicians. We need to do a couple where we talk about either some iconic movies or iconic TV shows.
Yeah.
So put that in the back of your mind.
Okay, that sounds good. Anything else about AI? Because I have something about my mother I want to talk about.
no.
Okay. Any AI stuff?
No.
Anything? Okay. So I was talking to my mom the other day on the phone, and keep in mind I've never told my mother that we have a podcast. Never mentioned it. Just I don't know. Just whatever. We're at episode 124 of this iteration.
Yeah.
We've done close to 300 episodes, and it just never came up. I don't know. Talking to her the other day on the phone, she says, "How do I get some of your new podcasts?" I said, "Wait a minute. What do you know about podcasts?" She said, "Well, it just popped up on my TV the other day," because she has a smart TV. And I was just dumbfounded. How first of all,
TV's
podcasts?
Recommending us. It's smart. This is
It's smart.
Oh, it told me several things. Oh my gosh, my mom knows what a podcast is now.
She needs a new TV if it's recommending us.
And if it popped up on her TV, I just thought about the algorithm. Okay, how did it pop up on her? What is she looking at that it popped up? Maybe the last name, but it just popped up. She's had this same TV for years.
Here's someone with the same last name as you. You might be interested in what they have to say.
I was happy too because our podcast is getting around, I guess, somehow. But here's what she said, Chris. She said, "I learned so much from that guy you do the podcast with." No mention of me, nothing at all. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm her youngest son. She's got two other ones. I don't worry about it. She said, I thought I knew everything there was. No, she said, I thought I knew a lot about the Last Supper, but man, I learned a lot listening to him. And I don't disagree. But I'm just saying, the whole 30 minutes prior to that, I did some talking.
Oh, goodness, that made me cough.
I applaud. I'm happy about that because, man, if she can listen, you teaching her about the Last Supper, it could not warm my heart more. It could not make me any more happy because it's no secret that you have a very gifted way of teaching and of reading and discovering in the Bible things that we have all read before, but somehow we learn something new whenever you're talking about it.
Well, count your blessings, though. I've given links. I've told them. I've showed them how to look it up. All this stuff. My family knows I do a podcast. None of them watched a single episode.
Isn't that funny?
It's that's great.
Isn't that funny that there's a total opposite? Well, I'm very happy that she's learning from you now. So I'm going to see her tomorrow, and we'll bring up bunch of my family's going to be there. So Cindy already listens. She'll be there. Buddy will be there, and he already listens.
I think my dad has actually listened to one of them a long time ago.
Cool. Yeah. Josh, I guess it's the same thing as, we learn from other people. Whenever we're teaching, one of the things that Josh, Chris, and I have told the people that we have taught how to shoot guns is that the worst person to teach you how to shoot a gun is your spouse or maybe a family member that you're really, really close to.
Right.
Let somebody else do it. Anytime that I have control of a range, I'm taking the spouse and moving them to another person that they may not know and taking somebody else and moving to them.
Yes.
By far, that's the best way of doing it for most people. So maybe your family listens to you too much. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe they just don't know how good you are.
I kind of have a similar rule in business where I try not to do projects for really close friends or people to go to church with. I mean, there's exceptions, obviously, but usually when you're in that kind of environment, there's a difference between the way you interact with someone at church and the way you interact with them when you're doing a joint project together outside of church, and so sometimes that doesn't always translate well. Yeah. So a lot of times when someone approaches me, I'll usually recommend, hey, you got a buddy that does this too, that kind of thing.
That's very smart.
Because I've seen those projects go south too many times, right?
Too much history. There's too much.
Too much history, and especially in engineering and construction, there's outside rules that have to be met that can't be. I can't just disregard something that the building code says because we're friends.
Yeah,
and sometimes that type of thing is a little bit of a tension, and understanding that. That's why I say there are some exceptions because there are anyway. So same idea.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is you're not going to build my inverted pyramid sarcophagus now, right? Is that what you're saying?
See, you would be one of the exceptions because you are also an engineer who has struggled with these same things in the past as well.
There you go.
So you and I already speak the same language.
That's right.
And have the same brain.
And you respect the building code, perhaps.
Well,
I don't respect the building code. It's from the government.
Let's not go too far.
I'm leaving. He's insulted me.
We realize it exists and that it carries some authority.
There you go. How about that? That's better.
Doesn't mean we respect it.
That's right.
There's a lot of politics in the building code.
Because some of it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Right. All right. Okay.
When they start dictating exactly where the toilet paper holder needs to be mounted,
that's a little much
in a public restroom,
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's go ahead and transition over to the Bible study. We had a full house. We had at least one student last night.
Yeah.
Ooh. We had 2 teachers, 1 student.
Yeah. So summer is usually slim pickings because a lot of people are traveling, and especially right now because we're going into the Independence Day weekend, and so nobody was at
Yeah, this is our 4th of July episode, basically.
Right, it is. Yes.
Church-wide, the parking lot had so many free parking spaces.
That's true. I got there at 20 after last night, and I got in front parking, the first parking space I got. So I don't guess we have never not had anybody there. We've had, I think, last night was the second time in the entire time we've been doing this gun club that we've only had one student.
Yeah.
And we had a good time. It was dawn. It was, we did some dry fire and watched a Michalik video about him breaking the world record in several different genres. Man, we got to talk about that guy sometime. He is wicked fast. And anyway, so we had a good time. We went on, did the whole hour, and it was good.
Yep.
But you talked about doing some research and genealogies of several things.
Yeah. So since it was just us, and we're kind of in this, we just finished a series on like where we got the the old manuscripts of the Old Testaments and that kind of stuff. And so we're kind of in between. So I figured, since it's just the three of us, let's kind of spitball some ideas for where we go next.
There's going to be some one-offs, perhaps, or two-offs that you do before you go into it.
The way our church schedules its summer, we're coming up towards the end of summer where the entire church kind of joins together in a church-wide Bible study. And usually it's at the small group level, like each small group does the same thing. This time it seems like all of the small groups are going to be canceled, and everyone's just going to be in the main auditorium as a group doing this thing. And so there's going to be about 5 weeks or so, 4 or 5 weeks, where there is no small group meeting. But until then, we have like 2 weeks. So I thought maybe in the next 2 weeks, as I'm trying to figure out where we want to go long term, let's do this little bitty series about what happened in between Malachi and Matthew, because there is several centuries of history there. It's just not in the canon of Scripture, but it is history that's very well documented, and one of the primary sources of that history, as it pertains to the area of the Bible, is a book called Maccabees, 2 books called Maccabees, 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and they're considered apocryphal books. The technical word is, I think, Deuterocanon, like the second canon. In Protestant circles, it's not considered part of Scripture, but it often is considered of historical significance. And I would agree with that. I don't think it's canon of Scripture, but I do think it's extremely beneficial when it comes to the history of the Jews, especially if you want to understand a lot of what's going on in the New Testament, like the animosity between Herod and his people and the Jews, and why the Jews, this detesting that why the Jews detested the Samaritans so much, or the politics of the Roman Empire and Judea and all that kind of stuff. So all that stuff is an underlying theme of the New Testament, that if you don't have a good working knowledge of the history of this area between Malachi and Matthew, then you're really at a loss in a lot of ways. I mean, you don't lose the central idea about Christ and salvation and what he came to do, but it gives so much more depth to what's going on there. You find out what the roots of Hanukkah are.
And to some people, Josh, that doesn't matter.
Right.
Read the Bible and that's enough. Okay, why did Herod hate them? We don't know, but they did, and they move on.
And honestly, it is enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to this to understand the importance of why Jesus came and what his role was. But if you're interested in digging further into the history, and
can do that for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those recommended sources. Right. And also not just as it pertains to the New Testament, but when we're going through the Old Testament books, the way they're laid out in our Bible isn't necessarily chronological. For example, the book of Zechariah comes after the book, far after the book of Nehemiah, but the timing of Zechariah was before Nehemiah. And that happens quite a bit in the books of the Old Testament because there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. You have prophets that are being sent to the northern kingdom, prophets that are being sent to the southern kingdom. They're interacting with each other. Jonah shows up, I think, in 2 Kings. That kind of stuff. And so that's why reading the Bible from cover to cover doesn't necessarily mean you're reading the Bible in the chronological order in which the events happened.
Right.
And so knowing that is really important. So Malachi, for example, it ends during the Persian Empire. I think probably like 400s BC, and then so we have that 4-century span between Malachi and Matthew, and a lot of people refer to these as like quote unquote the silent years because there weren't any prophets. God wasn't speaking to people directly during this time. But this isn't time that the Bible doesn't allude to. And a primary example of that is Daniel's vision in Daniel chapter 11. And I'll just read the first couple verses of this because we're going to go through these as we move forward in this little series. But Daniel 11:1, he says, I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, so this is Persian Empire, shortly after the conquest of the Babylonians, the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. So he's talking about in the line of kings that follow Darius, which is referred to in the beginning of the chapter. He points out 4 of the kings in particular. So there's going to be 3 kings, and then the 4th one is going to be like super rich. He's going to be a super strong king, and he's going to start trouble with Greece. He's talking about Xerxes the First, who, if we're reading through the Old Testament and we encounter the name Ahasuerus and Esther's husband, that's Xerxes the First. Seen the movie 300, the king of Persia, that's Xerxes the First, Esther's husband. He's the one that goes and tries to conquer Greece and fails, and the relationship between the Persian Empire and the Greek Empire keeps going until the point where the Greek Empire ends up conquering the Persian Empire. So Persia is sort of on its way down from this point on, after Xerxes the First. But Daniel alludes to this. He said in verse 3, a mighty king will stand up and shall rule with great dominion and do according to all his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. So this says that a great king will rise up and will come into possession of this empire that this Persian king once ruled. He's talking about Alexander the Great, who conquered the Persian Empire at the Battle of Gaugamela. He defeated Darius III, and so this is when the Persian Empire comes to a close. It becomes acquired by the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. And then this verse, it says that Alexander the Great. Now, mind you, this is centuries before Alexander the Great. So Daniel is giving all of this information in advance. And he said that this great king, when when he dies, his kingdom isn't going to be handed over to his kids. He's not going to have any of them. It's going to be split to the 4 winds. Well, what Alexander the Great does on his deathbed, he says, my kingdom to the strong. And he has 4 generals, Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lysimachus. And those 4 generals split up the Greek Empire. And this is what's referred to as the Hellenistic period. And so Daniel continues on in chapter 11. We're not going to read the whole thing, but he starts talking about, and this king is going to rise up in the south. He talks about kings of the south and kings of the north. We would recognize this as the Ptolemaic Empire, Alexander's general Ptolemy, who ends up becoming the ruler of Egypt, that whole area, and then Seleucus, who ends up becoming the ruler of the region where Judea and Israel and all that stuff are. That's the king of the north. And so Daniel starts talking about the king of the south and the king of the north and the interactions between the two. And here again, centuries before these events actually happen, and he talks about what these kings are going to do. He talks about what these kings are going to do, how they're going to interact with each other, and it is spot on, centuries in advance. And he's talking about the different Ptolemy the first through fourth, Berenice, who is a sister of one of the Ptolemies, and her marriage to one of the Seleucid kings to the north, and all that stuff. He's giving all this stuff in advance in Daniel 11. This is the time that crosses from Malachi to Matthew. This is the intertestamental period that Daniel 11 is talking about. And so when you go over to the apocryphal book Maccabees, there's two Maccabees, first Maccabees and second Maccabees. First Maccabees starts where the Old Testament leaves off. It happened after, and this is Maccabees 1 verse 1. It said, it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one to his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them for many years, and evils were multiplied on the earth, were multiplied in the earth. So the first chapter, the opening of First Maccabees, picks up where the Old Testament leaves off and said Alexander the Great. He conquered pretty much the known world at the time, but his kingdom was split up amongst his servants, his generals. And so that's the opening of Maccabees, and it starts to go through that Hellenistic period, and it talks about the kings of the north and the kings of the south, Seleucid Empire, the Ptolemaic Empire, and what we're going to see going through this is what that meant, because the book of Maccabees is a Jewish account of what was going on during the Hellenistic period, from the perspective of the Jews that were under the rule of the Seleucid Empire. And so we're going to learn a lot about the history between the Old and the New Testament because of this book. So First Maccabees is like the play-by-play history of what happens. Second Maccabees isn't a sequel. It's happening along the same time. It's like this is the philosophical reasons why the Jews did the things that they did, and what those like the basis of their hatred for the Seleucid kings and all that stuff. So it's super, super interesting. And if you want to know about the politics of the day in the New Testament, knowing these two books is important.
This is all reminding me of the trend that started, 20 years ago about sequels and prequels.
Yes.
And things like that. A book is put out or a movie's put out, and then, in 1975 it's put out, but then in 1978, a movie's put out that chronologically is before that movie that was out.
Right.
Or it reminds me of that. And
Yeah. It's like we have episode 1, the Old
Yeah.
Testament. We have episode 3, the New Testament. This is episode 2.
there you go.
Yeah.
And last night in class, we were talking about how
Or more appropriately, this is like the movie Rogue One.
Rogue One. I haven't seen
In
it.
Star Wars.
Okay, there you go. In the Bible, it's sometimes we read different accounts of the same thing, and this is kind of like that, I guess. I mean, it has that.
Right.
I know a lot of people are sometimes when they're new Christians, they ask, "Well, why is this saying this about this account, but this is saying this about this account?" Well, it's the same thing that if we all see an accident out on the road, we're going to. That's why police ask different people.
Right.
They get different scenarios. Doesn't mean one is not right. It's just different ways that we perceive things.
Yes. And so going back to my really nerdy analogy of it being like Rogue One, you've seen the original Star Wars, right?
Yes.
Okay. So remember when they're all gathered around this table and they're looking at the plans to the Death Star,
Yes.
and they're figuring out, man, if we can just get a torpedo into this exhaust port,
Yes.
it's going to create a chain reaction, all this stuff. The question that you don't know that you should be asking is, how did they get the plans to the Death Star in the first place?
And you don't think that. You
don't
assume
think that.
it's okay.
Right.
You just give
assume.
it. Yeah.
Well, Rogue One is the movie that shows how this little band of rebels end up like infiltrating the Imperial forces and
cool.
getting a copy of stealing a copy of the plans to the Death Star, and like by the skin of their teeth end up getting it into the hands of the rebel forces.
Okay.
And now they have the ability to figure out what the weakness is. So
about that?
that's kind of like what Maccabees is. It's
Okay.
like there's a lot of stuff going on in the New Testament that you don't think to ask the question, like, why is that the way that is? First, Second Maccabees are kind of do that for you.
That's good.
It's the Rogue One of the New Testament.
Excellent. So setting that up, you do a good job of setting things up. Introducing what you're going to be talking about. I think that's going to be an important part of this, so everybody could really get on the same page about what
Yep.
we're going to be talking about. This is, I think it's going to open up a lot of eyes too. So looking forward to that.
Yep. I'm excited about it because, growing up, whenever you hear the term apocrypha, it's like, ooh, that's a bad word.
Yes,
Like this
right.
is evil.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily true. I don't consider it canon of Scripture. It's not considered part of the Hebrew Bible, but it is a history book.
Yeah.
Especially First and Second Maccabees. This is the Jews keeping a record of their own history between the end of the Persian Empire and the beginning of the Roman Empire. And so that's what we're reading when we're reading specifically First and Second Maccabees, is them recounting their own history.
And this is before we started rewriting history.
Yes.
Right. This is it's not like today's history that we're rewriting.
Right. I mean, history is full of people who have always been trying to rewrite history.
Okay.
The Egyptians were really famous for doing that.
Is that right? Were they?
We're not
Okay.
going to say anything bad about ourselves. We're only going to say good stuff
Okay.
about ourselves.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And
Sure.
the Soviets did that, and
Okay.
America does that to some degree. But
I understand.
yeah, and even the Jews did that. But this is one of those sources where it's considered historical.
Yes.
Even though it's not considered canon of Scripture
Gotcha.
by the Protestant metric of
Right,
canon.
right. Gotcha. Okay. I know you got to get going and do some engineering stuff.
Yep.
You got to get going. Chris, anything else?
I'm good.
You're good? All right. Sounds good. This is episode 124 next week. We're going to record next week, episode 125. And I don't know who I'm going to talk about next week, but
Chet Atkins and Tommy Manuel, or
Maybe-
Slash, one of those three.
maybe one of those three. Okay, that sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Donna. I love you. We'll see everybody later next week. Thanks. Bye.